If I asked you if you knew who Dostoevsky was, you'd probably roll your eyes at me. The guy is absolutely everywhere. But, you see, the version of him that we get online is actually hiding a wild historical reality. So today, we're breaking down the huge gap between the internet's favorite bite-sized philosopher and the actual historical surgeon of the human soul.
Section 1. The Social Media Philosopher. You definitely know him as this Russian literary giant who somehow has the exact perfect wisdom for every single modern struggle. I mean, you literally cannot scroll for 5 minutes without seeing his stern 19th century face slapped next to a quote like this: "Betrayal is a terrible act, but when it comes from those closest to you, it is even more devastating."
Very profound, right? It really hits you right in the gut. And if you missed that one, you for sure stumbled across this heavy hitter. Loneliness can sometimes be crueler than death.
Man, so deep. It perfectly captures that modern sense of isolation. And of course, being the absolute all-knowing sage that he is, this legendary Russian author also gave us this incredibly relatable piece of career advice. Love what you do until you do what you love.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. Love what you do until you do what you love. First of all, who can even afford to be that picky about jobs these days? But more importantly, who actually wrote this stuff? Because if you're sitting there thinking a 19th century Russian novelist was handing out modern hustle culture career advice, we need to clear something up right now. He never said this. Actually, scratch that. Good old Dostoevsky never said a single one of these profound quotes. Not the betrayal one, not the loneliness one, and definitely not the one about loving your job. All these viral quotes being shared by millions of people, completely fabricated.
Which perfectly brings us to Section 2, the fake quote phenomenon.
Now, this whole thing raises a really fascinating question about how we actually consume wisdom today. I mean, think about it. Why does anyone who writes a deep thought suddenly decide to slap Dostoevsky's name at the bottom? Why not just post it anonymously or, take the credit for yourself? To figure out why this happens, we have to look at a behavioral concept that's been around way longer than the internet. It's called authority borrowing. Basically, it means attaching legendary, culturally embedded names to fabricated quotes just to give them instant weight and credibility. We all kind of implicitly agree that certain historical figures are just the ultimate source of human wisdom, right? So if someone wants their random thought to sound incredibly deep, they just borrow a famous name. Boom, suddenly a generic thought sounds like an ancient, undeniable truth.
And honestly, this brilliantly shows how Dostoevsky sits right up there with Shakespeare, classic poets, and legendary folk tricksters. He's universally seen as the ultimate voice of conscience, the guy who has seen it all. So when people need a quote to sound utterly unshakable, they just borrow his authority.
But here's the thing, there is a massive, gaping difference between this generic bumper sticker life coach that the internet invented and the absolute master of the human soul he was in real life. The internet gave us a fake philosopher, sure, but history gave us something so much richer.
Let's get into part 3, a life of tragedy.
To really grasp his wisdom, we have to look at his actual life. It's easily one of the most dramatic stories in literary history. What's absolutely wild here is that unlike a lot of artists who only get famous long after they're gone, Dostoevsky actually lived to see himself become a legend. People treated him almost like a saint. Society basically realized they were watching a living symbol of human wisdom, an absolute expert on the human condition, decades before internet quote pages were even a glimmer in anyone's eye.
But getting to that point, it was an incredibly brutal and tragic journey. We're talking about a guy who started out as a forgotten, completely impoverished junior clerk suffering from literal starvation. Then he ends up a chained prisoner standing in a courtyard, literally waiting for a firing squad to execute him. And to go from facing imminent death to publishing undisputed literary masterpieces and finally ending up as a living legend personally sought out by the Tsar of Russia, I mean, that is a staggering life to live.
Speaking of the Tsar, he actually wanted to meet this former chained prisoner, and he told Dostoevsky this: "I learned things from your books that I couldn't learn anywhere else." And you know what? Looking at the sheer depth of his work, I completely get the Tsar's point here. You really do learn things from Dostoevsky about the human condition that you just can't find anywhere else.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the original psychoanalyst.
You see, his true historical legacy goes way, way beyond just writing great novels. He was arguably one of the most profound psychologists of the human soul to ever live. He just knew exactly how to look deep into people's minds and pull out both the darkest and brightest corners of our nature. And the crazy part? He was mapping out the human psyche in his books before psychology was even a formalized scientific field.
Because he had this unparalleled insight, the absolute heavyweights of psychology and philosophy ended up claiming Dostoevsky as one of their own. The endorsements are just mind-blowing. Sigmund Freud literally wrote an entire study on him called Dostoevsky and Parasite. The famous Russian critic Nikolai Berdyaev said he was a psychologist first and foremost. It even got to the point where philosopher George Santayana and psychiatrist Louis Berger wrote a whole book officially declaring him the true original founding father of psychoanalysis. That right there is his real legacy. Not a generic internet life coach, but the founding father of examining the human mind.
And it all culminated just months before he died, when he published his absolute masterpiece, The Brothers Karamazov. This massive book solidified his legacy in both literature and psychology forever. It's the ultimate proof that true, lasting wisdom, the kind that really changes you, comes from deeply and painfully examining the human condition over an entire lifetime. It definitely doesn't come from a catchy, comforting one-liner on a social media graphic.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. The internet gave us a fake philosopher, a really convenient mouthpiece for whatever generic advice we want to hear on any given day. But history gave us a real surgeon of the human soul, a man who literally survived a firing squad to map out the depths of our minds. So when you inevitably see his stern face scrolling past on your feed tomorrow, which legacy are you going to remember? Because sometimes the most fascinating truths about humanity are hiding right behind the fake quotes we swipe past every single day.